Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Sunday Bhagavatam class. It is June 13th, and I am in Ohio. So, we're beginning today with verse 1:11:27. Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So 1:11:27. Sitata patra vyajanaya rupaskritaha prasuna varshaya vivarshita pati pishanga vasa vanamalaya babhau gano yatarko rupa japa vaidyutahi. So this is Krishna entering Dwarka, and as he entered Dwarka, and if you look at the first line, upaskritaha means he was being, as Prabhupada said, being served, being attended, or by. So he's being served by the following. First of all, Sitata Patra Vyajanayar, by white umbrellas. White can be a royal color, actually, in this ancient culture. Here we have so tapatra. Tapa means heat, like tapasya literally means like kind of like, really putting the heat on. India's already a hot country, so a lot of it. So if you add heat, that's like tapasya. So tapas literally meaning heat. So an tapa tra means an instrument that keeps out the heat, that sort of shields you from the heat. So that's a word for umbrella. Tapa tra. And tra means like the instrument. And sita, so white umbrella, royal umbrella, and byajanayar with what we call chamara fans, whisks or fans. So white umbrella and white chamara fans, upaskrita, Krishna's being served by these. And pati, the second line means on the path, on the road, same as English, pati. Abhivarshita, he's being showered with prasuna varshaya, with flower showers. So all kinds of flowers are showering down on Krishna. And Pishanga Vasa, he is, as usual, wearing yellow clothes. Vasa means clothes, garment. Pishanga is yellow. Pishanga Vasa, Vanamalaya, and with a forest garland, literally. Vana means forest. Vanamalaya means he had a garland of sort of wildflowers. So from the forest. Vavo, he shone with all these things. He shone like Ganojata, like a cloud shines because of the sun. And Udupa means the moon. Actually, Udu means a lunar mansion, and Pa means like the Lord of lunar mansion. So Yatarka Udupa. Chapa literally means a bow, but here it means a rainbow. Vaidyutahi, and lightning. So just as a cloud, when there's a sun and moonshine and rainbow and lightning, the cloud just becomes amazingly luminous. So that's how Krishna shone with his forest garland, his yellow garments. Then on the path, he's being showered everywhere with showers of flowers. And he's being served with white parasol. Actually, in English, also the word parasol, in Latin, parasol, for the sun, a parasol or umbrella. Sita, Tapatra, Vyajanayar, and with chamara fans. So that's the scene. Oops, I don't know what I just did. I just did the wrong thing, obviously, and this got really small. So now I have to, sorry, I just, actually, I don't know how I did that. It's this Zoom thing where the text got very, very tiny. And so if I can't make it bigger, I'll just have to go to the database. So just 1 second. There is a fix for this. See, we're going to 111 now, 28. Okay, we're back on track here. So Krishna pravishtas tu graham pitroho. He entered the home, griha, of his two parents. Pitro, it's a dual in Sanskrit, of his two parents. Actually, it's like Spanish, where in Spanish, el padre means the father, but if you say los padres, the fathers, it means parents. Same in Sanskrit, if you use the dual form of father, it means parents. It's actually, it probably translates the word by word of the father, but it's actually the dual. The singular would be pitu. This is pitros, means of the two fathers of the parents. So pravishtas tu griham pitro. So he entered the home of his parents. Parishaktaha, he was embraced. Swamatarvi, by his mothers. And because, of course, Devaki is his birth mother. And then 6 of her sisters also married, or 7 of her sisters also married Vasudeva. He protected all of them. So pravishtas tu Gyang Pitro Parishaktak Samatarvi. One day Shirasa, and he honored them with his head. So it could mean he offered obeisances with his head on the ground, or it could mean he honored them by bowing his head. So one day Shirasa Sapta, the 7, Devaki Pramukha Muda, headed by Devaki, and he did this with great pleasure. So this level of polygamy, which is especially found, of course, among Kshatriyas, you don't hear a lot about polygamy in the other Varnas. And of course, the Kshatriyas, they had the habit of dying a lot because they were always in battles. And so the idea was you had to have a lot of sons to make sure that your dynasty would continue. Because let's say if a Kshatriya was monogamous, and then let's say he had a couple kids and they died, which is exactly what happened to Satyavati. Shantanu had passed on, left this world. She had 2 sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya, and they both died young. And then the whole dynasty was going to be destroyed by that. So it was very serious. It was about public service and government, and just maintain political, economic, social stability in a country. So also, people back then, they did have romantic love. I mean, Krishna himself and the gopis, very romantic. But in terms of marriage, it's not that there was no romance. For example, we see in Krishna and Rukmini, it was a very romantic relationship. At the same time, they were pure souls who had a very, very strong sense of what was best for the world. And they weren't, it's one thing to be romantic or, to pursue love as you feel it, but it's another thing to be a total narcissist. So it was just a very different world back then, especially these people. They're great souls who are very intensely focused on their duties to Krishna and what's best for the world. So the next verse, Ta putram ankam aropya. So Ta means they, the ladies, putram, their son, ankam aropya, placing him on their lap. So you wonder, Krishna is a big guy. And these are, how did they put this big warrior Krishna on their lap? And so I don't think it means they put him on their lap the way a woman would put, let's say, a little child on her lap. Krishna just wouldn't fit. So the word ankam can mean lap. It can also mean kind of like that slender part of a woman. It could just mean they embraced him. So anyway, the word anka can mean different things. Ankam aropi. Aropi means placing. So sneha snuta payodharaha. So their breasts, and the word for breast here is payodhara, which literally means the milk carrier. I mean, dara, that which bears the milk. That's payo means milk, is in the payo brata, the milk vow, which is in the Bhagavatam, and then dara means carrying or holding, like the milk holders. It sounds a little funny in English. It sounds better in Sanskrit. So snuta means moisten, sneha by affection, sneha snuta, payodhara. And then harsha, bivolitat and they were bewildered, all agitated by their excitement. They were so excited to see Krishna that they were just sort of confused, and it was just they were so excited, atmanaha themselves. And si shichur, they moistened Krishna nitrajair jalahi, with waters or drops of water, nitraja, literally that born of their eyes or that came from their eyes. Netra means eye. Sishi chur netra jair jalahi. So that's what's going on. And then ata meaning Prabhupada translates it thereafter, then Avishat Krishna entered Swabhavanam, his own home, his own house. First he went because he was, he's a householder, didn't live with his mother. So Atavishat Swabhavanam, then he entered his own house, Sarvakamam, which fulfilled all wishes, all desires, Sarvakamam, Anuttamam. Uttama means the best and something of which there's no other, there's no better. Anuttamam, that's what uttamam. Uttama means the best, and something in comparison with which nothing else is the best is called unuttamam. So Sarvakamam, so Krishna's house was the best of all the houses. Atavishat Bhavanam, Sarvakamam, Anuttamam, Prasada, Yatra, and these were palaces, there's more than one, palaces, Yatra, in which Patninang, of wives, Sahasrani Chashodasha, there were 16,000. I mean, we know there were 16,108, but it's just saying 16,000, rounding it off here. Atavishatsu Bhavanam Sarvakamam Anuttamam Prasada Jatra Patninang Sahasrani Chashodasha. Shodasha, of course, is 16. So now it's very interesting, the behavior of Krishna's wives. Patnyaha, that's just the plural of patni, which means the wives. Patim, their husband, prosha. Prosha, it means someone who has been away from home for some time. It's an expression in Sanskrit that comes from actually pra-usha. Anyway, we'll go into all the Sanskrit there. Let's see. Pra-usha. Usha, by the way, if you're curious about Sanskrit, comes from the root vas, to dwell. So it means, prosha means having been abroad, having been absent, having been on a journey. So Krishna had been on this journey, now he was back. And his wives, you can imagine, they're very, very excited that Krishna's back. And so, Patnya Patim Prosha Grihan Upagatam. Now, actually, if you're looking at Vedabase, they actually made a little mistake here in the way they divided the words. If you look at the synonyms, at least in my Vedabase, it says Griha Anupagatam. It should be Grihan Upagatam. Anyway, I won't go into the technical details, but it means they had returned home. Krishna had returned home after a long time away. So prosha grihan upagatam. So the wives, Vilokya, glancing at their husband, sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha. So there arose for them a festival of the mind. Mano, oh my God, sorry about that. So, Vilokya Sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha. Mahat or Maha Utsava, I explained, I think, the last class about the word Utsava, the pressing out, which happened at the Soma Yagya, which comes to mean festival. So, great festival. So, it was a great festival for their mind. A great festival for their mind arose just glancing upon their husband who had come home after a long time away. So Tastur, they stood up, Arat, and then the word Arat is interesting. Prabhupada says from a distance. Which is exactly what it means. So, in other words, they didn't just like rush up to him. They were a little classier than that. Utastur Arat Sahasa. Suddenly, they suddenly got up because they heard all this commotion. They knew Krishna would come. So quickly, suddenly they got up, and Asana Shayat, they got up from their seats and from their beds, and Sakam Vratar, and with their vows, interestingly, with their vows. Brata means vow. So Sakam Vratar. So in other words, they had made all these vows that because Krishna, because their husband was there. This is very romantic because their husband Krishna was gone, and so they had these vows like they didn't want to do this and they didn't want to do that until Krishna came back. They didn't want to just pursue their own enjoyment. They just because they were just absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Sakam Pratar Vridita Lochanananaha. Anana means their faces, and Lochana, eyes, and Vridita means shyly. So Prabhupada says coyly. So they're on their faces, the eyes were looking sort of very shy or coy. So in that condition, they're getting up to approach Krishna. And then text 32, Tamat Majayar Drishtibir Antaratmana Duranta Bhava Parire Vire Patim. So the ladies who had Duranta Bhava, ecstasy, Prabhupada translates Bhava, is actually in Duranta. Prabhupada translates insuperable, can also mean unlimited, because Anta means end, and Duranta means something which it's hard to come to the end of. In other words, just something unlimited. Duranta was something which hardly has an end. So with Duranta Bhava, with this unlimited ecstasy, Antaratmana, they parirevire, they embrace Patim, their husband. They embrace their husband, parirevire Patim, but they embrace their husband Atmajar by their sons, through their sons. Atmaja just means someone born of yourself, Atmaja. So through their sons, Drishti Bir, through their glances, and Antaratmana, and through literally their inner self, Antaratma, which Prabhupada translates by the innermost part of the heart. So there's a very sophisticated culture. It's a very aristocratic culture. They didn't just run up to Krishna and throw their arms. Everything is done in a very elegant, subtle way, but the emotions are very, very powerful. So through their sons, through their glances, and by their inner self. And Nirudhamapiya Savarambu Netrayor. And Nirudhamapi, even though they were checking it, even though they were sort of trying to hold it back, Asra Varambu Netrayor, water flowed from their two eyes, Netrayor. Vilajadinam, of these ladies who were shy, who were not shy, because we know from their past times with Krishna, they were not always shy with Krishna. But in this situation, where it's a huge festival, there's all kinds of people around in attendance, and they haven't seen Krishna for a long time. So they're a little shy, and I'm trying to think. There's what are some synonyms for shy? Because they're all in the Sanskrit dictionary. Bashful is a good word. They were bashful. They were reserved, and so on. So all these things would be legitinam. Briguvarya and speaking to Briguvarya. I think this is Sutta speaking, so Shonika, best of the Brahmins or descendants of Brigu. Vaiklavat, and they were doing all this very shyly because of Vaiklava, Vaiklavat. So Vaiklava in Sanskrit means sort of bewilderment. In other words, they were just everyone. The mood is so ecstatic and so festive. They're so attached to Krishna. I love Krishna so much that everyone is just kind of like out of their mind with the whole situation. So they're Vaiklavat because of this very intense love. Okay, so we've done 6 verses, so maybe we'll stop there for now. Let's see if there are any questions. Let's see. Krishna Priya. We know that Rohini was in Vrindavan, but I was wondering, is there any mention of where the other wives were when Vasudeva and Devaki were in prison? Very interesting question. Were more of them in Vrindavan? Maybe you could look that up and see if it's mentioned anywhere. A very interesting question, but I suggest you look around in the Bhagavatam and or in the C Chaitanya Charitamrita, see if you can find any mention for that. So Jagat Palana, Prabhupada mentions the inconceivable potency of Krishna. We propound Achintya Veda. Which bit is inconceivable to us, or everything is? It's called, I mean, our philosophy is beta. Sometimes the word achintya is added, but the actual philosophy is beta. It's not it's not inconceivable in every sense. If we look at Western philosophy, for example, we find that different philosophers throughout history arrived at a conclusion more or less of beta. The idea that there's, I mean, I was just looking at Spinoza actually. Natasha pointed some things out to me. So the idea that God is in a sense everything, Vasudeva Sarva, that God is in a sense everything, but there's still variety. So there are differences because, for example, a tree is not God in every sense, and yet somehow the tree is God's energy. So this idea that God is everything, but still there's variety, so there's oneness but difference, is something which has occurred to philosophers, not all of them, but definitely some philosophers for thousands of years. So I'm not sure that in every sense it's inconceivable. To understand the oneness and difference specifically with Krishna requires some revelation. There's no way in the world you're going to figure out Krishna by yourself without help from acharyas and shastra. So if we say Achintya Veda, we can say it's inconceivable if we're talking about being one and different specifically from Krishna or with and from Krishna. If you just mean the general ontology that things that exist are one with each other but also different, or things that exist are one with their source, which you can call God, even as they're different, that's something which has arisen in philosophy for some time. Not everyone, but a number of philosophers came to conclusions like that. So, I think that may be it for today. Yes. So, thank you all very much for listening, watching, and I hope we will be together again next Sunday. Hare Krishna.